He wasn't invited to any. I've never seen, and before I get Seth on, I've never seen a quarterback in 10 starts have 22 touchdowns, 4 picks, not lose a ball game. Now, look again, I know it's fragmented because it's last year and this year. And I've never seen anything like it. His completion percentage is 72%. And this is what Seth and I were talking about the other night. You know, when you don't get to go to the combines and you don't get to go to all the all-star shows, you know what you can't do? You know what happens? You can't put your talents on display. That's what happened to him. Let's bring our friend Seth Joyner on and get his thoughts on what he's looking at so far in the first 5 games of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. Seth, thanks so much for doing this. Seth, have you ever seen anything like what you're seeing right now with Brock Purdy?
No. And to be honest with you, I think everybody's waiting for the clock to strike 12. And he just keeps proving them wrong.
I would say this to you, Seth. I think maybe that's the problem with the evaluation of him. Just like it was with Jalen. Jalen wasn't a first-round draft choice. Is he really that guy? Is he really that guy? He finally proved he was that guy. That's what this guy's going through. Hey, real quick before we get to the Eagles, what do you think? Do you think the 49ers right now are playing the best football of anybody in the NFL?
Yeah, I think they are. I do believe that they are, but I would caution that you want to be peaking at the right time of the year, not at the early point of the year. And I think that all the dynamics are just right for San Francisco. They haven't had any major injuries yet. The one thing about Brock Purdy is, listen, he's got one of the most dynamic guys that he can turn around and hand the ball off to behind him. And I've always said, and it's happening, when you can run the football, the rest of your playbook is wide open. You can run anything within the scheme of that playbook that you want to run when you're effectively running the football. And they're doing that with Christian McCaffrey, not only with him running the football, but also with him being able to catch the ball out of the backfield. And you're seeing a lot of play action pass and a lot of creativity coming off of Christian McCaffrey actually running the football. That's what makes things easy for a young quarterback. And then his high football IQ to know where everybody is on the field, to understand coverages and to throw the ball with great anticipation. That's another thing that he has working at his benefit, is the fact that, he understands where to go with the football. He throws with great anticipation, and play action buys him the time that's necessary for him to get the ball where he wants to get it.
Seth, the Eagles now. Is Sean Desai an upgrade from Jonathan Gannon from last year's defensive coordinator, in your opinion?
Well, absolutely. A lot of people will look at the 70 sacks, in the regular season last year and say, well, how do you beat that? That's more on the players than it necessarily was on Jonathan Gannon. When the defense needed to make adjustments at the most critical times, he had no answers. Like in the Super Bowl, he had no answer for Patrick Mahomes. Most defensive coordinators don't really have much of an answer. But there are certain situations, especially with Patrick Mahomes being hobbled last year in the Super Bowl, you had an opportunity to affect him in some ways, and you kept relying on the 4-man rush to get there that couldn't get there on a field that wouldn't allow them to get there, and you made no adjustments to that. So when I look at what Sean Desai has done, they went in at halftime last week and they made adjustments. It looked like Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford was going to run them right out of SoFi Stadium. In the second half, they were 1 for 7 on third down conversions, and the 4 possessions they had, or 5 possessions they had in the second half, they went punt, 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 turnover on downs in the game.
Absolutely. I thought he was. And what else? And is it me, Seth? He's bringing more pressure because maybe he's not comfortable with the safety position. So he saw that middle zone opened up again like it's been for 2 years. And I saw something that he did because, like, you're watching Cup come across the middle. They're doing those crossing routes like they like to do in Los Angeles. You see him there. You're going, it's wide open. It's just wide open. What he did then, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to make it uncomfortable. And for them to make it uncomfortable for Matthew Stafford, who has seen everything like that, that's the first time I saw creativity from a D coordinator in 2.5 years, because he saw what he was doing and he countered Stafford, which really made me feel a lot better about the side and maybe that pass defense getting better.
Well, listen, there's not a single quarterback in the NFL that is, adverse to pressure. Most of them respond to pressure in the same way. Some of them are less able to handle the pressure than others, especially when you're talking about, if you got a quarterback that is a pocket passer, he's a spot guy, you can affect him with pressure more quickly than you can a guy who can escape. Like, pressure doesn't mean anything to Jalen Hurts, because if he's got one guy to make miss, 7 out of 10 times he's going to make that one guy miss. But when you're talking about a guy like Matthew Stafford, he has to have protection. He has to have, max protection so that he can stand in the pocket, survey the field, have time to throw it. Because if you move him off of his spot, now he's uncomfortable. And now you make him speed up the process of reading and decision making. That's why I always say it's important for for defensive coordinators, even in today's age where they're throwing the ball as much as they are and sight adjusting the way that they are, is you still have to bring pressure. Because even with the pressure that he was bringing, he only gave Stafford one read. And that's the whole intent of pressure, is to speed everything up, give you one read so that you either make a mistake, have an incompletion, or if it's first or second down, I get you behind the sticks, and I force you to play from behind the sticks. That's the reason. I don't care if you're on pace to make 100 sacks in a season. You can't leave it up to those guys up front all the time. You affect field position and you affect flow of the game and you affect the quarterback by bringing pressure and blitzing him and making him do things that are uncharacteristic to him.
Seth, this is why I love talking to you, man. That, I haven't heard spot since Buddy came down and talked to me and Jerome in '86 about moving statue quarterbacks or drop back quarterbacks off their spot. Then I heard Monty Kiffin bring that up to me once. And that's how they used to get to Kurt Warner, because every quarterback has a spot. Mm-hmm. And especially in the 7-step guy, that's what makes these dual threat guys more difficult. And I would even say this, I tried telling people this, and Seth, this, one of the things when you were going to play against the 49ers, you were like, man, I surely hope Montana's healthy, because I don't want to see that guy Young out there, because that guy Young moved around and he ran 4.4s. I mean, do you agree? And I'm getting to Jalen here. Seth, I think this guy's got to run more, because when he runs more and he looks like he did in that game against the Rams, when he gets that third down and he breaks the back of that defense, man, the pass, I get it. I understand the deep throws, but that play there breaks a defense's back more. I've gone to the other side with this, Seth. I wonder where you are. I want to see 11 to 12 carries a game, 50 yards, 275 yards passing, because that's who that guy's ID is, right?
Well, this is my take on it, because he carried the ball 15 times the other day. And what I'd like for the NFL to do is to figure out a way to differentiate between what's a called quarterback run and what's a scramble, because he can drop back to pass the ball, but the minute that things break down and he takes off, now it's determined to be a run. That's not really true, So people get upset, with all of these different elements of, oh, Jalen ran it too much. He ran a ball 15 times the other day. And there were times last year we ran it, 17 to 20 times. And people, he's running the ball too much. Well, if you're going to run RPO, then there's an opportunity there, and there's a chance that he may read that he may have to keep it and he may have to run it. Okay, if you're going to pass it and the pass play breaks down, he's going to take off and he's going to run, especially if it's man coverage. If it's zone, he's going to scramble, horizontal to the line of scrimmage and try to buy time for guys to adjust and come back and go deep. I prefer to see him play from the pocket and then turn around and use his athleticism when everything goes to hell in the handbasket. And this is why I say that, because I believe that the NFL over the years, offensive coordinators have done, black quarterbacks a disservice because they come from the college ranks. They have the ability to run. And instead of making them learn how to play the quarterback position and then use their athleticism when things break down, they devise a system for them to operate in based upon their running skills. Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, RG3, the list goes on. And when these guys get hurt and their lifespan as a quarterback diminishes, as it will until they learn how to play the quarterback position and use their athleticism secondarily. There's a history there. And I just want to see the change. Like if I was a GM or if I was a head coach and I drafted, a guy like Richardson, I would say, okay, if you're not an efficient passer of the game and you can't read and you can't work through a progression, you're going to sit over here until you learn how. Because as athletic as you are, that's fine. Sooner or later, the odds say that it's going to catch up with you. Okay, somebody's going to catch you. It happened with Jalen Hurts last year.
I mean, I don't think it's sustainable either.
No, so that's why I'm not a big fan of when I see him run. Now, with Jalen, there's a difference. He's trying to become that pocket passer. Okay, and you saw him last week operate from the pocket. You saw him throw the ball on the run, but you also seen him be able to run. Now, there's going to be some times in the game, in my opinion, when you need a first down or the game is on the run, revert to who you are and do what you got to do to get the win. Okay, but for the most part, I want to see him play quarterback. That's what I want to see him do. I want to see him operate from the pocket, run the offense from the pocket, and when all else fails, now use your athleticism and your God-given talents and get out and go make us a play to help to keep the drive alive or help us win the football game.
Damn, Seth. I never looked at it that black quarterbacks were coached differently for systems made because they wanted to use their wheels more, which meant that it was a lack of the arm development and the lack of continuing to improve your arm. And they just relied, like Vic, go down the history of the multitask quarterback or the dual threat guy. They never really ever wanted to develop the arm, nor did they want to take the time to develop the arm. They just used the athleticism. And like you said, that's why these guys, they just don't last, and there's not a high ceiling for them.
Dan, you know what I do?
That's crazy. That's crazy great.
I give Jalen Hurts a lot of credit, okay? So much more so, than some of the aforementioned guys that I mentioned, okay? Because when Jalen came in to the NFL, 53rd pick, second round, everyone had reservations about A, what's his arm strength like? B, can he read defenses? So he got thrown in those last 4 games of the season. Doug Peterson's last year, and then Doug got fired, and then he came back and Nick Sirianni's first year, the team went 9-7 and made it to the playoffs. But there were still questions, whether he could be the franchise, whether he could make all the throws, whether he could read the defense, and whether he could operate outside of just, the read option and the RPO scheme. And you know what he did that offseason? He went out to California. He got with Tom House, Tom Brady's quarterback coach, and he went to work. And he came back last year and was an all-pro quarterback, the top quarterback in the National Football Conference. Not first team all-pro, but, you get what I'm saying. He was
the best in his conference.
Yeah, first in his conference. Okay, not only running the ball, but throwing the ball. And if he's healthy through those 2 games that he gets hurt, he's probably going to win the MVP. But my point is that he saw that he had to get better. And he went outside the box and went and got the help and found the person and found the group of people that could help make him better, you know. And I'm sick and tired of watching guys like Lamar Jackson come into the league and, you know, Greg Roman gets him and he's creates this offense where, you know, it's tight end base, you ain't got no wide receivers. We're going to allow, you know, we're going to rely on Lamar Jackson to do it all, you know. I think you arrested and stunted his growth as a quarterback by not making him learn how to play the position. And I get it. Things are different today. When you draft a guy in the first round, you want that guy on the field right now. But if he's not ready, then you do him a disservice by throwing him out there and devising a system that works around his skill set rather than making him go and learn how to be a professional quarterback, how to throw the ball on time, how to throw the ball on rhythm, how to read the defense, how to understand how to go through a progression. Make him do that. Because now your investment in this kid, when you got to spend $50 million a year on him, it's going to be warranted. But the way that Lamar Jackson is right now, and I love the kid. I loved him when he came out of college. He has not taken the Baltimore Ravens to a Super Bowl anytime soon with him constructed as a quarterback the way that he is. It's just not going to happen.
Seth, did you get this take because you saw the lack maybe of coaching and development with Randall and how they handled Randall? Because I'm assuming that because it was such a centric defensive-minded organization at the time, I wonder how much of the coaching, because you're looking at maybe a more, to me, Randall Cunningham, Jalen Hurts, I'm sorry, no disrespect to anybody, but if Cunningham plays in today's NFL, he's Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's Mahomes in today's NFL. If he had Andy Reid, I wonder what that thing would have looked at. Look what he did with Brian Billick when he was up in Minnesota, and he had some great coaches and some great players. Is that what you saw with Randall when he was in Philly, when you were looking on the other side of the ball?
Well, you know, Dan, it's a combination of things. I mean, I've seen it with Randall. I've seen it with multiple other quarterbacks that have come through the league. Think about the guys who were drafted, you know, African-American quarterbacks that was drafted in the first round that flamed out after 2 or 3 years, you know. And then I think back about a guy like, you know, Doug Williams, first African-American guy to actually win a Super Bowl. And I'm watching him play and I'm watching him operate an offense in an era where it was believed that black quarterbacks couldn't operate an offense, wasn't smart enough to, or didn't have the leadership traits to actually lead a team. And then you watch a guy like Warren Moon come on the scene and operate and become a Hall of Famer. It's possible, you know, but do these organizations have the patience, you know, to develop these guys to be what they can potentially fully be? And if the organization isn't, then as a player, you have to take it upon yourself in the offseason to go outside the confines, you know, of your team and find somebody because there's plenty of great quarterback coaches out there now. There's position gurus all over the place, pass rusher, offensive line, quarterbacks, you name it. There's places where you can go in the offseason where they can prime your fundamentals and your technique and get your eyes right. And there's technology, there's all of this stuff to help make you a better player, you know. And I just want to see these young players go and take advantage of it for not only for longevity, but for success. Because I always felt like if a coach has to do more for me than just hand me a game plan on Wednesday morning, okay? He's got to figure out a way to help make me a better football player fundamentally and technically. And if that guy can't teach and show me anything that can help make me, you know, a better fundamental or technical player, you know, then just hand me my game plan on Wednesday and leave me the hell alone the rest of the week. You know, because if I'm making a mistake and you can't tell me how to fix it, then what's the problem? What's the point of you being a coach? You know, and I see this a lot where I see players making the same mistakes over and over and over and over. In my day, the coaching staff wouldn't allow you to do that because you either make the corrections or you come over here and you stand next to us. We'll find somebody else that will. But now these guys are in a position where, well, this is our guy. we can't cut guys and let guys go because of the rules as far as salaries and all of that stuff is, for veterans after 3 games. And there's just a whole plethora of things that goes into it. But as a player, there's no one more responsible for your success than you. And if your position coach cannot give you the tools to be the success that you want to, then it's upon you. It's incumbent upon you to go find that person that can. And he's out there.
Seth, do you have time for a couple more questions here?
Yeah.
Okay, Seth, I threw this off people yesterday, and I told them what you were just talking about with the business of football, and it's playing out right now, and it just shows me sometimes what Doug Peterson had to fight a little bit. You got 2 linebackers right now that are playing really well. Nicholas Morrow, according to Pro Football Focus, however you look at that, is one of the top 3 linebackers productive-wise in the National Football League right now. And he has made himself from a guy who was cut from the roster to the practice squad. Now he's playing well. He's gone up the ranks, and he's earned this. But now all of a sudden we're hearing that Nakobe Dean's taking reps for this weekend against the Jets. And I'm sitting there and I told people this. Well, here's the business of the game. Morrow is a mercenary free agent. That's a 3rd-round draft choice. How he's married to those guys. There's guys over here on this side of the building that are putting pressure on the coaching staff. I mean, this is why I think you'd struggle, Seth, being a coach, because you would have to look at that guy and go, I ain't playing that kid. I'll play that kid when this kid right here starts showing me that he can't get it done. But right now, they're getting into sandboxes again here a little bit like they did with Doug. How would you handle the Nakobe Dean situation?
I threw this out. I threw this scenario out 2 weeks ago on my TV show and my podcast. I said, if you're in Nick Sirianni's shoes and Sean Desai's shoes, and Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham continue to play as well as they played, when Nakobe Dean is ready, what decision do you make? Okay. I get it. A player, and I agree to a certain extent, a player should never, ever lose his position because of injury. But I also believe that if a guy is being productive, it's going to be hard as a coach to take him off the field, because it's just, you're playing players. Players are in position because of, how productive they've been. It's not Nicholas Morrow's fault that Nakobe Dean got hurt. And let me just say this, Dan. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a guy is to get cut, because it's an eye opener. You understand what I'm saying? For me, I look back at it, and a lot of people, Mike Quick was saying, man, when I saw them cut Seth and seeing him leaving the building, I was like, what the hell's going on? But it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. You understand what I'm saying? Because
Did it refocus you?
Say it again.
Did it refocus you and did it make you get refocused and hungry again and all that?
Absolutely, because this is what happened. I sat on my mom's couch in New York for 2 weeks in a row, and I watched the Eagles lose to the Chicago Bears week 1. Watched them lose to the Washington Redskins at the time in week 2 in back-to-back games. It was the most miserable time in my life. Okay. So when I got back, my thought was, okay, I'm not leaving again. If I leave, it will be politics. It won't be because I haven't prepared and done everything that I could and worked hard and shown the zeal, for wanting to be the best player that I could be. I was on all the special teams except for field goal. Okay. And, if they needed a wide receiver on a show team, hey, I jumped in. If they needed an offensive line, hey, I jumped. They had to tell me to get the hell out of the way. You understand what I'm saying? But it wasn't going to be because of something that I didn't do, And I can remember the first week that I found out that I was starting. I came in on Wednesday morning. The linebacker coach was like, "Hey, go over and see Buddy." I'm like, "Shit, they're gonna cut me again." So I get over there, I walk in Buddy's office. He looks at me. He says, "Hey, learn your shit. I'm starting you this week, not because I want to, but because I have to. We had a lot of injuries, you know, and I was never not a starter from that game forward. And that being cut kind of refocuses you. So there's nothing wrong with that, because there's a lot of guys that need that. You know, I'm not saying that I necessarily needed it, but, you know, it was a benefit to me because I was always prepared. Not only was I prepared on the special team stuff, but I prepared each and every week like I was a starter. So when I got a chance to play, it was like I'd been starting all along, even though I wasn't getting any reps, because I knew what to do, because I was studying and preparing like as if I was the starter, you know?
Hold up. This is later in your career, not earlier.
No. This is my rookie year.
Oh, you were cut?
Yes. The first 2 games of my rookie year.
Unbelievable. I asked you about Brock Purdy. Have you ever seen it again? And you were freaking cut. I didn't know that, Seth. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, man. You must be so proud of your journey, dude, that what you went through and how you got there. And for that coach to, I mean, perfect example of Buddy Ryan going, hey, I don't want to start you, but I have to. And then you didn't start ever again, not for him. And Philly is crazy great.
Well, you know, sometimes for many guys, it's a matter of trying to, you know, get the coaching staff to see what it is that you can really do. You know, I mean, listen, they had a full slate of veterans that was here when I got here. They drafted 3 other linebackers in front of me. You know, a kid out of Florida who was All-American outside backer. He, you know, right behind Wilbur Marshall, Alonzo Johnson. He was a hell of a athlete, you know, and a much better athlete than I was, but he didn't have this, and he didn't have this. You know, that was the difference. You know, maybe if I was a 2nd round draft pick, I wouldn't have had this or this, you know, but I knew that I was up against it. So I had to do everything in my power to stick around long enough for the opportunity to show them what I could be. And Buddy always had this thing that if you were a hellraiser on special teams, that, you know, if we could figure out how to translate that into your position, that we might have something. And that's what I was. I was a special teams, you know, demon. And the opportunity presented itself for me to show them that I could play linebacker and that I was ready and I was prepared. And from that point on, you know, the best thing that happened, it was my rookie season. And they were still trying to build out the roster, still trying to build the team and trying to figure out who was going to be there. And I can remember when the season was over, I went in for my exit interview, and Buddy looked at me. He's like, hey, you got your foot in the door. Kick that son of a bitch open now. It's your job to win or lose. And worst thing he could have did was tell me that, because I went home and went to work.
I love that, Seth. And you know what, too? Back in your day, it wouldn't be anything to sit there and look and go, well, there's Seth Joyner, there's Wes Hopkins, there's all the great players that you guys, Andre Waters. And you look at New York, you'd have Lawrence Taylor, you'd have Carl Banks, you'd have Gary Reasons or Harry Carson all on the kickoff team. You guys, I mean, you go to Philly and there's Seth and Wes and all these guys. You look at New York, you had LT. Dude, it's special teams, man. You better have your chin strap on or you're going to get the shit knocked out of you.
Yeah.
One more question here for you. Red zone. They're not very effective right now in the red zone. And now what you got these games, I said this, why this Jets game is very important, because you got to put together, I think, a 60-minute game, because then you got the Dolphins. And for whatever reason, the Commanders have been giving you trouble the last 2 games. You got the Cowboys, then you got the bye. Then you got Chiefs, Bills, and 49ers. It's got to be now or never, right, Seth? We see a 60-minute ball game, because I think so far we've probably seen a 64%. If I were going to look at them playing complete ball games, I have not seen a complete ball game, and I think they're hanging around that 65% number. That number's got to get better if you want to really be a Super Bowl team.
Well, they're really lower than that. I mean, last year they was 68% on red zone efficiency, and they ranked 3rd in the National Football League. This year, through 5 games, they are 42, somewhere between 42 and 48%.
So it's like 27th.
27th, yes. So they definitely got to get better. I don't know whether You know, they're saving some things for that stretch when they need to, you know, really get them. They're running Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, too much down the red zone. Way too much. You know, I mean, there was one possession where Jake Elliott wound up kicking a 20-something yard field goal where I think they ran Jalen like 3 times. They ran him up the middle and tried to get him around the corner twice. And I'm like, you got running backs. Turn around and get the damn ball to your running backs and let your offensive line do what they do. You know, you've got A.J. Brown, who's 220 pounds, playing against cornerbacks that are 200 pounds max, that when he runs that slant route and boxes a guy out and gets him on his back, he can't get around the front of him to make the play if he doesn't, you know, pass interfere on him. And then you got Dallas Goedert, who you can line up outside and throw, you know, jump ball fades to, or run play action passes and have him sneak out, you know, on the other side, or Jordan Mailata, line him up at tight end and sneak him out the other. There's so many different things that they can do to be a lot more efficient. And they're really, their efficiency is really bad in the area of, you know, the 5 and in.
Yeah.
Which is really astounding when you think about, you know, they're the number one, you know, rush team in the league at 159 yards per game. You know, and they're averaging well over, you know, 4.5 yards a carry. You would think that you could just turn around and hand the ball off to any one of those running backs and punch it in. But inside the 5, they are like very, very pedestrian. And that's going to be the area where they're really going to have to improve. And to your point, you know, when you get down inside the 20, you know, you got to walk away with 7. It's worked thus far that you can get away with kicking field goals. And I think Jake Elliott might be leading the league damn near in scoring.
He is.
Off of just kicking field goals and extra points. But when you play against that murderous row of teams that you were just talking about, you're going to have to put the ball in the end zone. Field goals aren't going to do it unless you're kicking them to win the game at the end with 5 seconds left on the clock.
Would you bring a guy like Leonard Fournette in for a red zone like you did in 17 when you had LeGarrette Blount on the team? Somebody down in there, because DeAndre Swift, he was taken out in Detroit, Seth. They had a specialist up there for him, and he wasn't – I don't think the Eagles look at him as a red zone threat down there. And like you said, you just said it, they'd rather run the quarterback than DeAndre Swift down there when it comes to red zone. And so, you know, I mean, do you think they need another addition for him?
I think what they need to do is
they just need to do what you said. Throw the damn ball up to AJ, man. He's going to get 70% of those jump balls if you just throw it up to him.
My thing is run the ball. Your offensive line is good enough to move people off the ball.
They are.
You've got 2 guys that are 340 plus over on the left side of your offensive line. You know, load up over there. Put, you know, Goddard or Jack Stoll in the fullback position and just run the ball over those 2 big guys. You know, you don't have to. DeAndre Swift is in the best shape that he's been in probably since he's been in the National Football League. I don't know if people are looking at him. His body type doesn't even look the same. You know, the other thing is the competition level is so high between he and Kenneth Gainwell because Kenneth Gainwell realizes that, you know what, hey, you know, I was the number 1 guy going in. I got injured and gave this guy a crack, and now he's taking over the number 1 spot. So every time that Kenneth Gainwell gets in the game and gets his hands on the ball, he is just running like a man possessed, you know. So experiment and see whether these guys can get it done in the red zone before you turn around and go and bring in another guy. I'm not saying that they don't need another guy, a big body or whatever it is, but you haven't figured out yourself whether the guys that you have can do it or not, because you try to do so much with Jalen Hurts running the ball in the red zone. Come on, man, think about it. Your quarterback leads you in rushing touchdowns. Something's wrong with that picture. You understand what I'm saying? And a lot of those are just tush push. You don't even have to do the tush push. Turn around and hand the ball off. You need 1 yard. 1 yard.
Hey, Seth, final question for you here on Swift. It's the most he's had when it comes to carries in his entire career. He's always hung around 8, 7. He's now up near 15 and a half, 16 carries a game. He's on pace for something like maybe 238, 240, which would just blow away anything he's ever done. He's on pace for 1,400 yards rushing, 300 yards receiving. It's going to be interesting to see what the Eagles do in the offseason with him because he's in a contract year. I doubt they sign him, but he's going to be wealthy in the offseason. Do you think they're giving him the ball too much? And do you think that they should cut that back, or do you think they should run that guy till the wheels fall off?
You talking Swift? No.
Yeah.
I just think that, listen, it amazes me because, I saw a video. His dad is like a fitness guru,
Yeah.
And it really blew my mind that, it wasn't until this year that you really seen a shift, in how he's prepared for this season. But I also saw a video of him training, him running in the sand and doing a myriad of different things. So it's pretty obvious to me that, he realized that his body couldn't hold up the way that he was formerly training and the way that he needed it to, and it was going to affect him with his contract coming up after this season. I'm not saying that you got to run him in the ground, but the Eagles primarily keep their running backs somewhere around, 18 to 15 touches overall. And if you go and you look, the only game where he had more than that, I think he had 25 carries in that game where I think he had 175 yards.
Minnesota?
Because it may have been Minnesota. Yeah, but they needed him. They needed him to carry the ball that many times in order for them to win the game. Now that they got Gainwell back, you're starting to see, okay, Swift is getting anywhere from 15 to 17 touches. Gainwell's getting maybe, 8 to 10. So I don't think they're running him in the ground, but I do believe if the guy's hot and he's healthy and you're giving him rest away and you're sparing him the way that you should in the game, that you don't change the plan. I mean, you ride it. I'm not saying that you turn around, you give him the ball 25, 30 times every single game, even if that's a combined 20 carries and 5 catches. That's too many touches for, a guy like him. But I think at the end of the day, if he gets hot and you're in a situation, listen, if they're playing against San Francisco or Kansas City or Miami or Dallas and he's running hot, you're not going to stop giving him the ball, man.
No.
Even if that means he's got to get 25 to 30 touches, because those are games that you have to win. You can't afford to lose those games, or you can't afford to lose too many of those games. I mean, you're trying to keep pace with San Francisco, and your schedule is quite a bit more difficult than San Francisco's is. They're playing, in their divisions, the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. Those are teams that they plan on beating every time that they play them. The worst case for the Eagles, worst case scenario for the Eagles is that, hey, they split with Dallas. So somewhere along the way, they're going to have to get San Francisco to lose 2 or 3 games in order for them to win the conference, in order for them to have home field, in order to get to the NFC Championship and have it, here in Philadelphia, rather than having to go to San Francisco to get it done. So it really comes down to what you have to do and when you have to do it. Spare him this time of the year. Give Kenneth Gainwell some of them touches. Start getting Boston Scott, acclimated, giving him some of those touches. But when it comes, nut crunching time, hey, you're not holding back. That guy gives you the best option to win. Then you got to put him on the field and play him.
Seth, I want to sneak this in on the Cowboys.
Go
May
ahead.
I please? Listen, I have never in my life seen more of a delusional team in my life than the Dallas Cowboys. This guy, Micah Parsons, is going around after he got his shit kicked in, and he's saying we're just as good as a playoff team as the 49ers. You got guys saying we had a bad night. I'm like, that's not the only problem. Arizona beat the shit out of you and ran the ball down your throat. Seth, I've never seen anything like it where you're looking at Jason Kelce bitching because he's concerned about what you and I were talking about, red zone, and we can't be kicking field goals. He's bitching about, and they're 5-0. These guys there lies the difference between the Eagles and the Cowboys. And for people to continue, and you even tweeted at me once, That guy, I'm going to say it one more time, and I'm going to hit the drum, and I had Phil Sims on the other day. If the next guy tells me that guy 11, who in my opinion, he's not better than Pat Swilling, okay? He's not better than Pat Swilling. Pat Swilling was an NFL Defensive Player of the Year. That guy is not an aggressive guy. He is not a physical player, Seth. He's not. You can run at him. You couldn't run at freaking Taylor. I mean, the guy you played with, Reggie and Lawrence Taylor, Seth, even when you guys lost, they didn't have bad games. It's just what I can't get Dallas. No wonder you guys got after their asses all the time, because it's insane to listen to. Now you have to excuse me, Seth, because for me, I'm learning this now, talking to Philly people, and I'm like, dude, that team's delusional. The two bullies on the block right now, the 49ers and Eagles.
Well, but I mean, that's Jerry. You know, Jerry has this holier than thou mentality about his football team, that they're better than what they were. You know, listen, if you'd have left Jimmy Johnson alone, you probably would have won 2 more, championships. But you haven't done anything since you made that fatal move to let him go, because he wanted all the credit, instead of realizing that he owns the team. He's going to get the credit anyway. He's going to get the Lombardi trophies. Just let Jimmy do what he does, and it's haunted him all of these years. And they preach this nonsense about, America's team, and we're this and we're that. And, all you do is you hear the chatter. Okay. You hear them talking. You heard last year after the Eagles beat the 49ers, you heard them talking. Kyle Shanahan's finally got them to shut the hell up, because I said that they're going nowhere until they let that loss go and stop bitching and complaining about, losing to the Eagles. You lost the game. You didn't just lose the game. Debo saying, oh, we had a quarterback, we would have won. No, well, the truth is we beat your damn quarterback up. We knocked him out of the game. As a matter of fact, we knocked both of them out of the game. So, if and buts was candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, okay? But the truth of the matter is we put you in that position. And, oh, by the way, your number one defense gave up 31 points to our offense, okay? So if you were that great, then you wouldn't have gave up those types of points. That's neither here nor there. But I give you that to give you the whole thing with Dallas. All you hear is the chirping. They're just talking. There's something about talking that and writing checks that your ass can't cash that gets you in trouble. Just shut up and play, man. If you're that good, let your play speak for you. What do you hear the Eagles talking about? What do you hear the Kansas City Chiefs talking about? What do you hear top football teams talking about? Even San Francisco has learned how to shut their mouth and just play, because karma is a you-know-what, and it always catches up with you. Now, Micah, the Eagles put the game plan out.
Do you think Micah Parsons is overrated?
No, I think he's a hell of a player who needs to learn how to play the run, because the Eagles have figured out a way, have given everyone else the blueprint. If you go back to last year, what the Eagles did was they know that he's always going to be lined up on the weak side. So you can't line the tight end up on him and think you're going to run at him that way, unless you put Jack Stoll on that side and then you take Dallas Goedert off and you motion him across and then you double up on him. But what the Eagles did was they lined up 3 receivers to the left. They put A.J. Brown in the slot. They motioned him across and they brought him back. He stopped inside the tight end. On the snap of the ball, they sent A.J. Brown across the formation. Jalen went read option to Micah's side. And when he pulled it, now Micah's, kind of caught in no man's land, because he doesn't know whether to come take Jalen. If he comes take Jalen, Jalen just throws the ball out to A.J. Brown in the flat. If he takes
Except
AJ,
he freezes even guys like Fred Warner, because he's so paid. Fred Warner in that game against the Niners, man, I'll tell you, you want to like slow down. And I think Fred Warner, man, I think that guy's a bitch, man. He is one awesome football player, sideline to sideline, knocking guys out, intercepting. But Jalen last year in that NFC title game, Seth, how many times did he freeze him and then turn him into a step slower because he was so patient?
Well, but
That's another gift he has.
But then that's the issue that the RPO and the read option creates for defenses, because the offensive linemen are allowed to be a yard to a yard and a half down the field, you know. And if you're a true off the ball reading linebacker, the way you should be, and you see that guy fire out, you think that it's a run. So you come up to take your guy off, take the double team off your tackle. And the minute that he sees you step up, he pulls the ball off the read and zips it right by your ear on the slant behind you, you know. And then they've got a way to do the same thing with Micah on the end of the line, okay? We're going to bring another guy, one more guy that you can account for. And when you can't account for that guy, now Micah has to make a decision. Do I take A.J. Brown to the flat, or do I take Jalen Hurts keeping the ball and running? So all game, he's just frustrated as hell, because when he comes and he takes, you know, Jalen just flips it out to the flat to AJ. AJ runs it in for a touchdown. He's throwing a hissy fit, you know, because they can't figure it out. Now they'll come up with a way to figure it out this year. And the Eagles, I promise you, will have an adjustment for it, because I already see it in my own mind. When AJ comes and he does that in and out motion and he sets down and they snap it and they go read option, okay, they're going to bring an extra guy to account for AJ Brown. Now that means they're one guy less strong on the other side. So now you just take Dallas Goedert and you release him hard over on an over route. So now Jalen's got two options. Okay, you can take away the guy in the flat, but Dallas is running away from a guy coming in that same from the opposite side. So when Micah comes to get him, because there's going to be nobody to block him, he just flips that one over his head, you know, for a big gainer. Listen, they have no real remedy for this whole read option thing, because there's not a guy that can really account for Jalen. That guy is playing free safety and he's too far away. So you got the extra guy, you know. But my thing with Micah is, you know, they're going to have to learn they're going to have to figure out, you know, what to do. And to your point, listen, I've always said this about these pure pass rushers. These guys that line up in a true 30 front, they're really defensive ends on the weak side, because they're looking at the strength. They stand in the middle, and wherever the tight end goes, they go the other way. He's lined up on the outside, okay, on the weak side every single time.
Derek Thomas.
You know, Derek Thomas, Lawrence Taylor, Pat Swilling, the list goes on and on and on. T. Sizzle, all of these guys, okay? So you can't get the tight end over there to actually run at them because they're lining up the weak side. But if you're a smart coordinator, this is what you do. You go 12 personnel and you go two tight ends, or you can go put a tight end on his side. He's going to go away from that side, okay? So if I got Jack Stoll, who's the second tight end over here on the Eagles team, and he's lining up on Micah Parsons, okay? What I'm going to do with Dallas Goedert is I'm going to shift him off the ball, okay? And I'm going to put AJ up on the ball. Whoever that Z receiver is, put him up on the ball. Now I'm going to go motion, okay? Because now it's too late. We're changing strength without them being able to adjust to it. So I'm going to send Goddard in motion and snap the ball and toss it that way, okay? And I got two tight ends on Micah driving his ass to Jersey all day long. Okay, and I'm going to wear him out to the point where he doesn't even want to rush the passer anymore. Why they don't do it? You can do it as a tight end. You can do it this way. Put the other tight end at fullback and shift him up. Then take the wire off and bring him in motion. There are so many different ways that you can take guys like that out of the game that I don't understand why offensive coordinators don't do it. I just don't understand it.
Seth, are we looking at the next Jerome Brown and this kid, Jalen Carter?
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And today,
dude, how many times in your life have you ever compared? I've never. How many people have you ever compared that you looked at that were Eagles or maybe someone else and said, That guy reminds me of Jerome.
Only other guy that I've seen like that. There's only a hand, and
Sapp?
I miss some guys. I get it, and it's not me being disrespectful, to any of the guys
Of course
along the
not.
way. But when I think about guys on, cut from that mold, I think about a Howie Long. I think about a John Randall.
Sapp?
Guys like Cortez Kennedy, Sapp. Those are the types of guys that that pretty much remind me of how Jerome played, and they're far and few between. Just because it's very hard to find a guy who can be dominant in the run and dominant pass rushing as well. But when you find a guy who has that unique skill set, he's hell to deal with, because most guards and centers, they don't mind having to fight a guy who's one dimensional. What makes Aaron Donald so tough to block, especially when he was in his heyday, and I'm not so sure he's out of it yet, is the fact that he could beat you with power. Like I saw him last week stand Jordan Mailata up with one hand and come off and make a tackle, and I'm like, wow, are you kidding me? Is that dude really that strong?
He's 6 feet, Seth, 275, which is even more amazing.
But he is just as strong as an ox. And I'm telling you right now,
all that.
when Jalen Carter realizes that the next move for him next season is to get his pro body, get his fat content down, and get his pro body. Once he get his pro body, you're not gonna be able to touch him. You're not gonna be able to touch him because he's already strong, and it's not just his size that gives him strength. He's strong. He's big now, and he's a little fluffy and a little puffy and a little, if you lean him down to Aaron Donald, lean him down. He's probably 3-something. Lean him down to like 290, 295. His foot speed is going to get faster.
Jeez.
His muscle content is going to be greater, and he's going to have another year of experience at the NFL level. You're not going to be able to touch this kid, man. I'm telling you right now. I mean, I'm just looking at what I see. Like if I could get my hands on him, I would get him down to, 290, 295.
Wouldn't you play him more in the 3 technique too, Mac, with that quickness? And they slide him down on that 2 a little bit.
That's
3?
That's coming, because when Fletcher Cox leaves, you're not going to play Jordan Davis. You're not going to play Jordan Davis in a 3. You're going to play Jordan Davis in a 2 or a 1, because you want the center and guard on the backside to make sure that they double him, and you want to leave Jalen Carter in a 1-on-1 in a 3 technique. But they're playing Fletcher in that spot right now, and you very rarely see the 2 young kids on the field together. But when Fletcher is done, you're going to see Jalen move to the 3 technique, and Jordan Davis will be the 1 or the 2, technique.
Seth, last one. I swear to God, I'm going to hold myself to this here with you. A.J. Brown, is he been a better acquisition? And when I throw T.O.'s name out, has he been a better acquisition as a trade, free agent, whatever you want to call it, being brought into this team? Has he proved to you that he's better than T.O.? It's been a better move for the Eagles than the T.O. move was. Can you compare that at all? Are they 2 different guys? Is it 2 different types of stories?
Let me say this. T.O.'s a first ballot Hall of Famer, even though they didn't give him the honor of being a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is a game changer. The chaos that was created, is why you would ask a question like that, Dan. He's A.J. Brown's a great wide receiver. He ain't T.O. I'm sorry. But from the standpoint of what he gives and what he provides for this football team, he's a better fit for this football team. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, if you could take T.O. in his prime and put him on this team without all the chaos that surrounds it, listen, in my opinion, T.O. is one of the top 3 wide receivers in the history of the National Football League. I can't tell you or say that A.J. Brown is at that level right now, or that he'd ever be on that level. But for this football team, this move by Howie Roseman to trade for him and then extend him on the same night that you trade for him was absolutely masterful, because what it did is it gave Jalen that number one guy that they needed, even though they went and drafted a number 1A. Then they turned around and drafted another and traded for another number 1A that threw this offense into the stratosphere, believing that if Jalen Hurts could be the guy, that they'd have all the pieces that they needed for a dynamic offense. And that's what Jeffrey Lurie was after.
Man, I can't wait to see how this stretch run plays out here, all these games coming up. Seth, it was a real privilege to be on your show the other night, too. I thank you very much. We had a lot of fun. A lot of people commented on it, too, about how we were going back and forth on it, too. So thank you so much for spending all the time you do with us, man. I can't thank you enough. You always are so kind with your time, and yet you have no time.
Hey, man. I just, once you get me talking about football, I lose track of time. And oh, by the way, I do plan on having you, on my TV show. It's only a 7 to 7:30, 7 minute to 7 minute 30-second segment. I'm just waiting for daylight savings, so I don't have to get you up at 7 o'clock.
But listen, if we do it in Philly, I'm going to be in Philly in a couple weeks too. So I'll let you know when I'm in Philadelphia.
Well, let me know.
Maybe that makes it easier.
Let me know. Maybe I can get you in studio. That'll be even better.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Seth. I love you, man. I appreciate you doing this. Hey, guys, don't forget to catch him, our post-game show, too, with all the guys, our JAKIB post-game show, each and every single Sunday following Eagle games. Seth is always there for us, man. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Seth. Man, gave us a full hour. Isn't he great to us? I mean it, man. I love that guy. Hey, by the way, speaking of love, I love our friends at Hooters, the official sponsor of the National Football Show, 40th anniversary, iconic Hooter girls, football in fall and Hooters. Can't get any better than that, right? Go into any one of the locations tonight, Thursday Night Football. All you have to do is find one of those Northeast Hooters in that area there, northeasthooters.com. Go to the website. You don't want to go into any one of the places? Use the app, hooterstogo.com. Get you there too, and some of the great food that they have. How about some of the great specials we have? Tuesdays, buy 10 wings, 10 boneless free. How about this? Wing Wednesdays, 1983, all you can eat, kids eat for free on Saturdays. 6 items, $6. Try the fried pickles. All the great happy hour specials, northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com. And when you go into any one of the Hooters, do me a favor, tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.